14. Here is a weird one. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. That makes no sense to us whatsoever. I get it. I was looking and reading and trying to find out what God was trying to teach, and I just saw nothing. So I finally called the Hebrew professor at Martin Luther College, who happened to be a personal friend of mine, and said, hey, like, what is this? And he said, if you think back to the culture of the day and understand that essentially every woman and community would have had their own little garden, and so they ate what they grew. And then the pieces started to come together. Remember when the Egyptians complained about, we miss our leeks and our garlic and whatever. They had certain things that they grew that they ate, and that's what they liked. And so man in the wilderness, whatever it is, it's the food that you're familiar with. Now make yourself the woman who says, what more can I do with this pound of hamburger? I'm sick of Hamburger Helper. And you're looking for a new recipe and you're going, I'm really sick of this. I really want to do something different. Now go ahead and take it the next step further. And someone in your family that you love has a birthday. And do you know that your sister loves this one cake that your mom always used to make? And so maybe you make that cake for your sister. Or maybe you have a special treat that you get for your grandchildren on their birthdays. That's a special treat that Grandma knows this is what you like on your birthday.
Or if you're Joan Richards, you make these cookies at Christmas that take 2 days, and
there you go.
Brings them in. And
for sure.
We look forward to Christmas when Joan makes these cookies.
You bet. That's exactly the point. Exactly. And another one that I even thought of was then, during all of this studying going on, my husband had to have heart surgery, and we had to have a pretty significant diet change. And so I've decided that I was like a merchant ship, because now I started to have to go to new health food stores and find things like flax and find things like whole grains that, what's that? I didn't know what that was. And so it's doing that. It's making homemade bread. It's just, doing fruit. It's whatever. It's the effort that you make to say, I want to take care of my family and have good, healthy food. I want to eat well. I want to take care of myself, and I want to do it with some creativity. This is not saying that you have to have elaborate meals all the time. This is not saying that you have to eat a particular way and be a vegan or don't be a vegan. It is saying to you, be creative. Have some fun with it. And you get to go beyond your own garden. And for you and I, that does not seem like a really big deal, because we always go beyond our garden. But at this time, that woman did not. Most women did not. Most women just had what was at their fingertips. And so the idea is, this spunky little girl is going down to where the ships are and saying, I'm going to grab some spices and do something new. Don.
You know what's interesting is nowadays it's actually the contrast that's true. Last summer I made a big effort to garden with my son, because I realized I grew up around farmers, and I knew a lot about where food actually came from and how to do that. My son had never had that exposure at all.
Right.
And he's 10. And so it was a good experience for him. And one of the best things he got out of it, he discovered he loved mint. It was to the point where my husband's like, stop chewing mint. My son would constantly have a twig of mint in his mouth. Mm-hmm. But it was good for him to see this is where the food actually comes from. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes things do work. But it got him to understand a little more. And slowly I'm trying to get him into cooking and keeping all that kind of stuff, because I don't want him to go someday to his married life and his wife to be like, I have to cook every night. Right. Because he doesn't know how to cook.
Right.
I want him to have the skills to stay on his own.
Sure. Sure. And so we see this broad spectrum again of creativity and new ideas, and she was doing this before there was Pinterest. And so this is all she's doing, is looking for new ideas and creative ways. Again, very quickly touching on the idea of the bride and the groom being Christ and his church. How creative are we being in bringing the gospel to other people? We are taking merchant ships and sharing the gospel. And I don't mean that literally. We're doing it with technology. We're doing it with our lives. We're doing it in aspects of ministry work. It is saying you are a merchant ship. You are. That's what it says. You are like a merchant ship. You are bringing a good thing from afar, and you're bringing it to people that you love. So lots and lots and lots that we can talk about or think about there. Verse 15, she gets up while it's still dark and provides portions for her servant girls. Let's talk about servant leadership. Somebody has Matthew 20.
Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave.
Okay, 1 Peter 4:10.
I have a different version.
That's okay.
As each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God.
Okay, and 1 Peter 5:12.
With the help of Silas, whom I regard as a faithful brother, I have written to you briefly, encouraging you and testifying that this is the true grace of God. Stand fast in it.
Here we go again.
How is God saying?
1 Peter 5:2. Man,
With the help of Silas, whom I regard as a faithful brother, I have written to you briefly, encouraging you and testifying that this is the true grace of God. Stand fast in it.
So how is that servant leadership? What do you think, Amanda? Is she got the wrong verse?
He couldn't do what he needed to do without the help of Silas.
well, I will go back and look on my phone and see what I've got. I mean, certainly we can make that application. I think the quicker answer is it might be the wrong verse. Yeah. And there is no 2 Peter 5. I'll go back and look. Did we look at like 1 Peter 2?
Peter 5:5.
5. Yeah, 5:2.
Same way you who are younger submit yourselves to elders. It's sort of a list of ways to approach,
It's 5:2. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, serving as overseers, not because you must, but because you're willing, as God wants you to be, not greedy for money, but eager to serve. So it's this idea of just shepherding the flock with love. And so we're seeing 3 verses that talk about servant leadership because she is getting up while it's dark and providing portions for her servant girls. Quick thing on the word portions. I had to check with my Hebrew guy up at MLC on this one as well. What does that mean? And it is not clear. It is not absolutely certain what the word portions mean. It could be one of 2 things. Either she is providing a portion of food, and there are other passages in Scripture that imply that talk about a master who feeds his servants, that indeed, think about if you were the servant girl and you got up in the morning and your master had made you breakfast, how hard do you think that servant girl is going to work during the day? Pretty hard. I always think of it as like I'm the one laying in bed, like the servant girl bring me. Remember when your kids used to bring you breakfast in bed? I hated that. The toast was always cold. The coffee was like, how'd you strain that? Oh, we use the fly swatter. And it's just not always good, right? Okay? So, but this is a woman that gets up and provides portions for her servant girls. Now, the second possibility of that could also be that she's actually providing a list. Actually, the word portions from the Hebrew can actually also be translated as a list, according to Pastor Nass, that would say she's getting up and saying, good morning, have some coffee, and today these are the things I'd like to get done. And we want to make sure that we wash the windows on the west wing of the house and we plant the garden on the whatever that looks like. So that she's organizing it and providing portions or lists. But either way, she's actively involved in her servant girl's life. There isn't this prideful, superior, like you do what I say you do. It's this feeling of there's a relationship there. Let me help you. How can we do this? This is what I'd like us to get done today, whatever. And there's love there. There's not that feeling of you're the servant and I'm the master. And God is really teaching us that we may be in positions in our life where we do give direction and order, where we are the boss or the leader. And yet, God is still teaching us here, you do that with a servant's heart. Now, you can do it very well, and I know that there are women in this room who are in positions of leadership, and you need to lead well, and you need to make decisions, and you need to communicate orders, and this is what we need to get done. But do you know in your heart that you can do that lovingly and respectfully as you work with other people, or you can be kind of crabby about it and boss people around? And God's saying, look at her. She's getting up while it's still dark. She's making the effort on herself to say, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go into the office and make sure that all the copies are made and that things are ready to be done because we need to get this done. I will take that responsibility myself and I will serve the people that I am leading. And John Maxwell writes a lot about leadership, and that's what he talks about is the greatest way to lead is to serve. I'm like, Jesus said that. You know, you can't claim that one. St. Francis of Assisi said the same thing, that there's no greater motivator of leading than serving people. And I think that you probably have a good concept of that in your head. But this is what God is teaching us, that she's making the effort to serve those that she's leading, serve those who are under her. Verse 16, she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Now just go back a couple verses to 14 and we're remembering the culture and the time period, and it doesn't quite ring a bell. Like, really? So like she's got a garden in the backyard, but she has to go down to the ships to go get spices, and she's considering a field and buying it, and she's got her own earnings, and she's planting a vineyard? Like, wow, that seems really, for that time, it seems like that's really out there. And I think this is the most exciting validation of God, that God's giving women to say, look at this. Even in that time, even in that culture, when we think a lot of women may not have even been able to be property holders. And remember, the estates and the heirs and the dad's stuff all went to the sons. The daughters didn't get anything. You couldn't oftentimes be a landowner if you were a woman. And here she is. The word considering a field is to evaluate or inspect. So it's just not like, oh, I don't know, should I or shouldn't I? She's got graphs and charts, ladies. She is looking at the books and she's projecting, well, if I plant this and it costs this much, she's doing some analysis here. She is really thinking and making a concrete decision. And she's got her own earnings. Now, again, I think that with the feminist agenda, people would say, see, she's an independent woman. She can do what she wants, and she's got her own money, and look at her go. And to that I would say, I think that they are a family that has money. She's making an income. Can we remember that her husband fully trusts her and has full confidence in her? He's praising her at the city gates. He's saying, you go, girl. This is my wife. My wife's got some great gifts. I like to see my wife doing what she likes to do. She's eager, she's working, she's making money. You think she wants to buy a vineyard? You knock yourself out, honey. Go pick one out. And I think he's supporting her in this. This is not a fight for independence. This is not, I'll do what I want to do. I'm going to have my own pot of money. This is just her using her gifts. And if we understand this in the context of the entire section, her husband is fully supportive of this. There isn't any push to do her own thing her own way. So she's planting this vineyard. She's making that decision, and that's very much in keeping with what she does. And it's all, again, it's a chapter. I don't know that she planted that vineyard and did all of that while she had small children. Can't really say that. But see, I just want you to be able to balance that you don't buy a vineyard every year. Sometimes there's a season of life that you're doing this, and there's a season of life that you're doing this. And all God is saying to you is that the day may come that you get to plant a vineyard, and you get to buy some land, and you get to inspect something and evaluate it and make a decision and buy it. And I don't know what that looks like in your life, but God's just saying, do it. If that's your gift, do it. And you have your husband's support, you have the support of the church to be all that you can be, but from a godly perspective. And so this is a wonderful thing. Did someone have Luke 8:3?
I do.
Okay.
Joanna, the wife of Cuza, the manager of Herod's household, Susanna, and many others. These women were helping to support them out of their own means.
Okay, so we have women in the New Testament at the time of Jesus that were working for Herodias. That's not a good name if you remember that history there. Just to say that there were women working in the palace in Washington, D.C. Okay, so these women are working and they're supporting Christ with their own means. And so, again, we've got some financial independence, and that's something that we're doing. Matthew 25 and 19, we're not going to look up. You're familiar with those stories. That is the 10 minas and the 5 talents. So I've given you these gifts. Now go do something with them. And God wants us to be faithful with that, and He will bless our efforts. So again, it's just saying whatever it is that your gift is, you consider that field and buy it. You be a good steward of your gifts, and you use those things to glorify God. And don't be afraid. Don't think, oh, I don't know, am I supposed to do that? Well, yeah, if God gave you the gift and the opportunity, then He's encouraging you here by saying, look at all the things this woman does. But again, it might not be the right time. You might want to do it a different way, a different time. But all of these things are blessings for us.
Naomi, are you moving on? Can you talk about that sentence underneath as a businesswoman? What is that?
Oh,
I don't
okay.
get that sentence at all.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get you to see the whole, how this fits into the whole context. So I'll just take out the numbers and read for you that as a businesswoman, she's a profitable trader who makes and sells garments to merchants. She's an eager, strong, hard worker. And her husband trusts and has confidence in her. He recognizes her gifts and encourages her to develop them. So that's kind of the
phase.
What's that?
This is a summary of that phase.
Right. So this is kind of how that one verse fits into the entire context of the section that we're seeing. We're going to see all of these other things about her written about that she's a profitable trader. We saw that she was an eager worker. We're going to see that she's strong. We saw that her husband has confidence in her, and all of those things. When you put it together like that, it's a little easier to understand why she's why she's considering a vineyard and planting it. Because let's just be honest, there's plenty of us in this room that really it does not appeal to us to plant a vineyard. There are some people, their nature, they're very creative, or they have a different set of gifts. It is not appealing to them to consider, how could we start a ministry group and do this and go there and do that, and I think that's what I'll consider and then do. That's just not appealing to them. But in this context, seeing all of the gifts that she has, this is something that works for her. So thank you for drawing us back there. I kind of skipped over that one. Verse 17. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. Underneath that, I put the Message is a translation, and I liked the way that it said this. It said, first thing, she dresses for works, rolls up her sleeves, eager to get started. So there's that. Where are you with your apron? So Kathleen's getting up. I'm getting to get up and put my apron on. And do you remember the old King James, gird up your loins? Yeah, and it's that idea of rolling up your sleeves. Let's go. I'm going to get up, I'm going to get out of bed, and we're going to go work. And so you roll up your sleeves, you get yourself ready so that you are able to work hard and do that. This is law. This is law. It is get up and get out of bed and get to work. Now, I just want to share with you, I don't know why, maybe for this moment, and then I hope now it'll be over. I have been struggling in the last couple of months with getting out of bed in the morning. I'm not really sure why, because I've never had that problem before. But the kids are all gone, and my work schedule is such that I make my own work schedule. And so I can wake up, and then I lay in bed, and I think, oh, I could get up. Or I could lay here a little while. And I kid you not, I'm really, it's getting to be a problem. I will lay there a very long time. And an hour will go by, and I'm still laying in bed I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. So I'm planning. So then I'm laying on it. Oh, now I can pray about it. And so this whole time I'm wasting in bed, I'm trying to convince myself I'm doing something constructive. So then the other day, I was laying in bed, and I thought, verse 17, it says, she gets up and she sets about her work vigorously, and her arms are strong for a task. That is Jesus going, get out of bed, girl. So I laid in bed and thought, get out of bed. God's saying, get out of bed. And I went, oh, that's the law. I need to lay here till I'm smothered in the gospel. I can't get out of bed in the morning. And so then, just to be honest, then I envisioned Jesus in my room saying, why, Naomi, don't you want to get up and have a lovely day with me? And I went, isn't that a relaxing thought? And the gospel didn't get me out of bed either. So I'm just struggling a little bit with that. So, but it is law.
So Naomi, to that point, sometimes we have to allow ourselves rest.
Yeah.
I think we lose sight of how busy and crazy our lives can be because we're doing it.
Right.
We're on that, that treadmill.
We are.
Right, that rat race or
We are.
whatever you want to call it. And so I think it could be, just your body or our body saying, okay, time out,
Right.
rest,
Right.
restore a little bit.
Right.
You may not think you're overdoing it, but your body may be telling you, hey, you're overdoing it. You need to dial it back a little bit.
And unfortunately, that's my husband's reasoning as well. And I said, why didn't you get me up? Why didn't you come drag me out of bed? And he's like, because you're tired. You're working hard, and you need your rest. And if your body wants you to sleep, you can sleep. I'm like, you didn't say that when the kids were like babies. So see, we just set it up, don't we? We just make it a lose-lose, like whatever. He's trying to be gracious and let me rest as well. So, but it is the law, and it does make us feel like, oh yeah, I got to work hard. I got to do this. And again, here's our little friend Ruth, the noble friend that we know we have. Did somebody have Ruth 2 verses 7 and 17? Did I give that to someone? Go ahead, Dawn.
She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. Came into the field and has remained here from morning till now, except for a short rest in the shelter. And then 17. So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to an ephah.
Okay, so really, what does that mean? We're gleaning with liters of ephahs, whatever. This is what's happening. Ruth is saying, let me go. Let me go glean in the fields. I'll do it. And this is what she's saying to Naomi, is that we got to eat. Let me go. I'll do the hard work. I'll bear the brunt of it, and I'll go out in the fields and I'll do this. And then in 17, after she's been out gleaning in the fields all day, picking up the grain that the guys leave behind. So mind you, the guys are going through and hacking off I don't disrespectfully mean like they're grabbing the easy stuff, but they're going for the big chunks, and they're getting the big chunks and doing the bulk of the harvesting. And then what's falling to the ground and those little things that are left, she's walking behind, and that's what she's picking up for them to eat. And so it is not easy labor. And she is in the heat of the fields. She is in working with behind the men and trying to stay out of their way and get whatever food she can for her and Naomi. And then after she does that all day long, she comes back and she says, well, now we got to thresh it out. And so then she threshes it out. So this woman is getting up early in the morning, and she's saying, I'll go into the fields, works all day in the fields, comes home, and then she's threshing barley at night. This is a hard-working woman, and this is our noble friend Ruth. And so sometimes I think we very rightly can say, I'm exhausted, I'm wiped, I need a nap, I'm going to go to bed, I'm tired, and we have to get that rest. But there's also another side, I think, that we can rightly look at and say, are you exhausted? Are you tired? Are you working hard? Well, praise God you have so much to do, because there is work in this world that we need to get done. And I do not want to be the woman who sits on the couch and watches TV 6 hours a day. and finds that exhausting. I want to be the person that goes out and touches lives and helps people, and what can I do, and how can I help, and what do you need? And that's what God's calling us to do, is an active life, a balanced life. An active, balanced life, because I totally agree. You get a nap. Boy, if God can rest on the 7th day, so can you. And so you get time to rest and relax. But you also have a calling to be a hard worker. And that isn't supposed to clobber you over the head and go, what? We do that with eagerness. Do you see all the pieces fitting together? We're eager to work. We're eager to do what we're called to do, what we like to do, what we're good at. I want to do that. We don't want to be lazy people. We want to be people that enjoy working and helping others. So that's all we're really seeing here, is this, that she's setting about her work vigorously. In Romans 16, we don't have to look at that. It's just a very short but very rare glimpse where it's at the end of Romans, and Paul is sending out some final little greetings, and he says, greet Mary, and greet Tryphosa, and to greet these people who worked very hard in the Lord. That little piece of scripture in Romans is extremely rare, because they didn't often speak about women in literature. And there are more women mentioned at the end of Romans in Romans 16. That is just really uncommon for ancient literature. And he's saying, greet those women because they worked very hard. And I don't know what they did, but they impressed the Apostle Paul to the point that he had to send a greeting back to say, tell them thank you. They did a great job, and I appreciate what they did. And so again, here's this picture that we are working hard. Verse 18, she sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. Two things here that it can be understood different ways. The lamp not going out at night could be a sign of wealth, because they had enough money to keep the oil in the lamp burning all night long. So that's one possibility, that the lamp doesn't go out at night. So that means that they had money to do that. Of course, I think where our minds go is that, oh, for heaven's sakes, she's up all night long making sure that her trading is profitable. So she's balancing the checkbook, she's doing the books, she's going over the finances, and now it's late into the night. Could you just remember back in verse 15, she's getting up while it's still dark? So now we've got her getting up while it's still dark, early in the morning, and we've got her staying up late at night with this lamp doing book work. That's how I know it's not her day. Because we're not called to live like that. We are not called to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and be up until 2 o'clock in the morning doing something else. God calls us to that life of balance. And so maybe you are a person who right now in this season of your life gets up at 4 o'clock. Maybe you are a person who in this season of life stays up until 2 o'clock. Do what you do. We all have things that we set the alarm extra early, and you have to get out of bed super early for a trip or a meeting or an event or whatever it is. And we all have things that keep us up late at night. When your kid knocks on your bedroom door at 11 o'clock at night and says, Mom, I have a game tomorrow. I need you to wash my uniform. Really? Let me draw you a map to the wash machine. And so, but there are things that keep us up late at night and things that get us up early in the morning. We do this. So don't look at it and think, how does she do that all the time? Well, she doesn't do it all the time. She does it when she needs to. And so she's seeing that her trading is profitable, her lamp doesn't go out at night. Let's talk about stewardship and spiritual bookkeeping. We're obviously in this context talking about her keeping what we believe are the financial books for her business that we see, these linens that she sells, the sashes, whatever she's making. So we know she's a businesswoman, and so we're seeing her doing her books. But I would like you to consider the spiritual application of that are you considering your spiritual gifts and your spiritual opportunities? Because sometimes when we talk about stewardship, we think that means you sit down and you say, well, this is how much money we make, and this is how much money we're going to give to the church, and that's our stewardship. And sometimes we realize that, wow, this is my life, and this is how much time I have, and this is the time that I want to give to the church, and the time that I want to give to my Lord. I'm asking you to make a list and take an inventory of your gifts. Who you are as a person, not just a broad 24 hours in a day. What are you good at? Where are you in your life? What opportunities do you have right here, right now, where you live in this day and age that God can give you as an opportunity? That is what you need to manage, part of what you need to manage. Yes, we manage our money. Yes, we manage our time. But you, the person, have gifts and abilities. And God is calling you to see that you're trading, that the way that you spend your life is profitable spiritually. Are you taking advantage of the opportunities that you have in relationships to bless others and to build relationships? That's what God's calling you to do. And the question that you're going to get on that for your discussion question, just because it's a lengthy question, number 5, is again the idea that you do not need to be, again, motivated by guilt. Like, I have to use all my gifts and I have to do this, and it's really, if I'm a Christian, then I have to do these things. That's not the motivation. It's not about that you have to do these things for God. It's about understanding that you are washed clean by Christ and justified by Him, and you have gifts. And so since you got the free gift of grace and salvation and forgiveness, now you have an opportunity to use your gifts for God's glory. So just making sure that we're kind of keeping that one in balance. But that's your trading, ladies, and make it profitable. Spend time thinking about, are you using your gifts? And just a real quick example, it is hard sometimes for us to say no. So when we vicared in Michigan, is where my husband was a vicar. One thing I will tell you without question about myself is I can't even grow a silk plant. I'm horrible with gardening. I can't grow anything. And we lived in a situation where here was the church, and we lived in the parsonage literally right next door to the church. And they had this beautiful landscaping all around the church, beautiful flowers and I think it's called foliage, green things that grew that weren't weeds. And they were lovely, and I loved it. It was very beautiful. I enjoyed looking at it. But there were 2 women that took care of it, and I kid you not, they drove 45 minutes to come take care of the flower beds. 45 minutes one way, and they would drive in, and they would faithfully come in, and they would make the church look just beautiful. And then we came. And then they said, you live like 20 feet away from the flower beds. Would you mind taking care of them? And what was I supposed to say? I said yes. Sure. That's what you need me to do. That's what I'll do. Could you tell me what you'd like me to do? And they said, well, just water it and weed it a little bit, just anything that comes up. And they did not understand who they were talking to. And they came to church the next Sunday and they said, where are the hostas? I said, what are hostas? And they said, well, they're green. I said, well, do they have a flower? No. Well, if it didn't have a flower, I pulled it, because why would you keep a plant that doesn't have a flower? I mutilated their bed. I mutilated their landscaping. And I didn't have the courage to say, I'm sorry, this is not my gift. You really need to understand, very genuinely, I did not want to hurt their flower bed. I really did not want to. But I didn't want to do it because I knew I didn't know what I was doing. And so to me, that is just really when God drove it home that last final time that when you ask me to do something that I'm not good at, I will just have to say, I'm sorry. I'm willing to do that, but I really think you should look for somebody else because I'm not good at that. I know what my gifts are. I know what my gifts are not. And when I meet other women that knit and do things, I just go, oh, how do you do that? But don't try and teach me, because it's not that I want to know. I just want you to know that I admire what other people do. So, and speaking of knitting, then in verse 19, in her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. which, in case you didn't watch Sleeping Beauty and you don't remember the little spinning wheel and the little, do they still watch that? I don't think my children know Sleeping Beauty, do they? Okay. She makes thread with her hands and weaves her own cloth. So again, remember when she was selecting flax and wool? So this is her. This is just what she's doing. She's doing what she likes to do. She's doing it very eagerly with a great deal of strength and energy. She's making cloth. She is getting out that whatever wool she gets out. I have carded wool, actually, really carded wool. But this is what she's doing. And Hannah and Dorcas, do you remember when after Hannah gave up Samuel and he went to go serve in the temple with Eli? And then it says every year she went and she brought him a little robe. And I just think, as a mother, can you fathom how much love and tears were in that robe? How much, knowing that she was going to go get to see her little son, who is now, 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever that is. She got to go see him once a year, and she made him a little robe. And I just think about all the love that a mother would put into that to say, this is what I want you to have, and this is for you. And what a precious treasure that is when we have that attitude towards others to give. Dorcas in the New Testament, remember when she died and all the widows came to Peter and said, look at all this stuff she made for us. Look at what she did. I don't think she went through her life thinking, well, I have a material ministry and I make clothing for people and help the widows. She just loved them, and that's what they needed, and so that's what she gave them because she could. That was her gift. And so again, it's not about you. Really, you should be into material and you should be doing fabric things and sewing pants or whatever it is that you would sew. Not at all. It's saying, what is your gift and what resources do you have and how are you using those resources and your skills and your time in this chapter of your life to serve God and bless other people and get the message of Jesus out there. And I don't know what that looks like, but the whole beauty of the freedom of Christ that we have is that you get to do that in your life, and it doesn't have to look the same in all of our lives because we have different gifts and different resources. So you get a break and you get some discussion time. We were supposed to come back at 10:45.
11.
We're getting there. We'll make some progress. So again, if you have a question you want me to come around, raise your hand or come and flag me down, something like that. I'll just kind of float around. But work through some of those discussion questions. Grab some more beverages, whatever you would like, and we'll try to pull it together around 11.